I'm going to tell you how to determine if that person is toxic or if they just have toxic behaviors. Because sometimes somebody can have toxic behaviors and you could work on it.
Right.
But if a person is toxic, they'll be in denial. Hey guys, we're Kristen and Jarrell.
Let everything you do be done in love.
Thank you for tuning in. And if you're here, that means that you got through our very first episode. So, we appreciate it.
Try to get to the next one. This one.
So, how to deal with toxic people. I'm going to read off this paper real quick because I want to make sure that all the ideas that I had to cover this topic come out.
Yes.
And then we could, get into the thick of it. I got my notes today.
Before she gets into it, make sure you guys follow us on all of our social media platforms.
That's
You wanna
right.
Shout out the Yahweh Music one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So subscribe to this channel, Yahweh Music, and follow us, the Yahweh Music LLC on Insta.
Please.
We got YahwehMusic.com.
Yes.
So,
Also follow us on Instagram.
yeah.
At
Kristen Nicole Official.
At JC,
It's Kristen Nicole Official. Mhm.
Excuse me. She just created this new one last week.
Well, because his is JCA Official, so we
Yeah.
gotta be evenly yoked.
She wants,
So
yeah, it's gotta be.
I copied him.
She,
Long story
she
short.
twins with me all the time.
All
So
the time.
Kristen Nicole Official,
Yeah.
JCA Official,
Yeah.
and that's how we're doing it. So make sure you follow us on the gram, and just stay tuned for more content. And
Absolutely.
now my lovely wife is going to read the news.
All right. So my notes on how to deal with toxic people.
Don't.
So, that is
End of episode.
right. That is the first point.
She wrote down one word. Don't.
Don't.
No, I'm
Right.
joking.
So don't deal with them at all. Okay. It is important for your overall health to keep yourself covered, no matter who it is. If you verbalize an issue and the matter has not been resolved, then somewhere along the line, your covering fell and they don't respect you. If they can't respect your boundaries, they cannot respect you.
That's the key word.
If you are in constant fear, boundaries. If you are in constant fear of hurting their feelings or getting into a quarrel with them, then they are not for you. Pray for them and send them on their way. No further contact is required. And I'm going to tell you why no further contact is required. If you're prepared, tell them why. Okay. Because if you already addressed it, you brought it to their attention that there was an issue, that they're making you feel some type of way, and they make you feel bad because they made you feel bad, that's a no-no. That's a no-no.
Yeah, that's called reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology, which is in other words, a form of abuse.
Manipulation.
It's abuse because that person is attempting to manipulate you, attempting to manipulate your emotions, your feelings, your attachment to them in order to get you to do what they want you to do.
Now, for our younger audience, excuse me, honey, that is not familiar with the word abuse and the definitive term of it, it means to abnormally use something.
Correct. Because everybody always thinks, that it's got to be physical or somebody's putting their hands on another person. And that is a form of abuse. And it's a very serious form of abuse.
Right.
But what we are starting to learn more about, especially in 2020, is that there are so many different types of abuse that are occurring, and people are being more open about it.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that we are being able to use our platforms to really address it.
Right.
And to really get down to the root of the problem. Because what I will tell you is, if somebody can abuse you in that way, where they're manipulating your emotions and they're verbally taunting you, really,
Right.
then they can also put their hands on you.
Verbal abuse is a big one. It's a big indicator like it's a red flag that a lot of people pass over. But you've got verbal abuse, just like you've got physical abuse, and God forbid this in any relationship, but sexual abuse, and there's so many different forms that people they like to measure from larger to smaller, you know what I mean, or greater to least. But abuse is abuse. Abnormal use is abnormal use around the board. So.
And it's not okay. So if you happen to display some of these behaviors that we are talking about, it's important for you to recognize them and for you to adjust your pattern of thinking, your pattern of behaviors. If you notice that these things are being imposed upon you, then know that you're not alone and you're not wrong for feeling how you feel. Because that's another big one. Sometimes you're made to feel like, oh my goodness, is it just me? Am I bugging out? Like, am I tweaking? Did I actually say something wrong? Did I actually do something wrong? And this goes for family too, because a lot of times they're the biggest offenders.
Correct.
And it's unfortunate and it's sad because you would like to think that the people that you grow up with or the people that are supposed to be blood related to you would be the ones that have your back the most, and sometimes that's not the case.
You would think they protect you from abuse, you know what I mean, of any sort.
Yeah. Well, part of that I do have to say as well is that unfortunately, because they're so close to you, it leaves more room for them to actually manipulate you, because they're the ones that know you the best, which is why at the beginning of this episode I did say that sometimes they don't even know that they have toxic behaviors. But it's important for you to know that it's a toxic behavior, because then you could bring it to them. And as long as they're an individual that is open and, you can actually talk to them and they're going to make these adjustments, and that's fine. That's cool. Y'all can work things out. But if it is somebody that you have to repeatedly tiptoe around, or you feel like you just can't talk to them because it's going to be a blow up, that's it. Don't deal with them at all.
So now, my job is the positive reinforcement. I'm going to actually, hubby back on that. But what she would suggest, or what we both advise in those cases, is not to love them any less.
Exactly.
Because you want to let everything that you do be done in love.
Yep.
But if it's not healthy for you, that love is not being reciprocated back. So what you need to do is distance yourself from that person, possibly. And if it's a family member, it's a friend, a loved one, someone you cherish, that has to be taken into account as well. And the distance may be healthier for them than you in those cases. So no one's telling you to love them any less. But for the sake of your own health and your well-being, sometimes you have to love them from a distance. And if they come back into your life, they will know to respect your boundaries, because now they'll know they exist. So it's really something that's important if that person loves you the same way that you love them. And, if that's not being reciprocated, then you may have found the root cause of the issue.
Right. It's kind of like you give somebody an inch, they take a whole mile, or something like that. It's like, you try to accommodate people and you try to be compassionate to them, and sometimes, unfortunately, some people just don't get that. And it's also important to know that everybody is raised differently.
Correct.
So that's going to be another episode where we will discuss that in full detail. Just like even when my husband and I got married, there were a lot of things at the beginning of our relationship that we did differently that now we kind of do together more so because we have adapted to each other.
Exactly.
And we've worked on those things.
But those contrasts didn't make either one of us any less of a match for each other.
Because we were able to talk about that.
Exactly. God loves variety. God loves contrast. So for him to bring us together didn't necessarily mean that we were supposed to be the exact same or the exact identical. We're a unit, we're a team, we're a group. We're flesh of flesh with each other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're the exact same in every way. So there are things that she's good at that I'm not. There are things vice versa.
Really? I think you're like good at everything.
And I think that you're good at everything. But that's why we agree, and that's why we work so well together. So in the cases where, like, there were things that we did differently. The most important key was that we were willing to come to a middle ground. We were willing to cooperate. It wasn't necessarily conforming or like compromising, because a lot of people call it compromise. It wasn't compromise. It was evolving. It was adapting to your partner. So for us, that was what was most important. It's like we know one way to do it, but there's more than one way to get it done. So if my partner, my spouse, my helpmate, and my life partner has another way of doing it that I don't do or I don't know about, that's a learning experience for me. That's a teaching moment for me. And I would encourage every one of you out there to look at it the same way. It's a teaching moment. It's something you want to definitely learn this person and study them. So, in a marriage, that's what it is. However, we're not always talking about marriage when we're talking about dealing with any type of abuse. It could be a friend. It could be a sibling. It could just be a constituent. You just need to teach people how to treat you.